Commissioner status update. It is January 16, 2024. The time is 10:01 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
All right, and I'll call for public comment. Okay, hearing none. Our first item is Justice Center update from Turner, Townsend, Heery, and we'll talk about the number of offices versus the number of cubicles as well. So, Mr. Mendez. Can you push your button there? Thank you.
I'm in construction mode. This is David Mendez with Turner and Townsend Heery. Cost update for the biggest thing that we have to report on cost is we've received the CCD 4 drawings from the design team. Mainly that will consist of structural changes that were finalized recently. So that we don't have pricing on that yet, so we should be getting that shortly.
Okay.
And then do you want to go right into the presentation from the contractor on our cost, or do you want to talk about the furniture?
Well, furniture is a little bit later.
Okay.
That we can talk about then. Do you have any questions for David?
Not right now. It sounds like you're kind of, I'm not quite sure where you're starting, but I assume you're starting with construction.
I want to get the presentation on the latest bid that we received from the contractor to answer. I know we went over that last week, but I'm sure you're going to have questions. The contractor needs to explain to all of us some of the alternates that were taken at the time of bid, and we'd like to, if not today, we'd like to get decisions soon on those alternates.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, Bouten.
Hello, this is Craig Shelby with Bouten Construction, and with me I have John Staub, also with Bouten. We wanted to we prepared a brief presentation just to talk through the overall construction budget, where we started in March and where we are today, and then we'll talk about the alternates. So if I take you back to March, when we presented the three options, there was the $24 million option with 40,000 square feet and no fourth floor. There was an option of just not having the fourth floor and 45,000 square feet through the rest of the building. And then there was the full option, which we ultimately decided to continue down the path with, of the 59,500 square feet. And we set a budget that we said this cannot go over $36 million at the time. And then, as our bottom bullet says, there was a goal. Actually went back and watched that March meeting, and we said we really want to keep this between 32 to 33 million. From the commissioners, that was the goal. Like, guys, go find us a way to do this between 32 and 33 million dollars. So at the time, our budget was set at the 35.273, and we had the marching orders to come in between 32 and 33 million. So then, if we fast forward to today, you'll see these. Those numbers are now that column that's gray, the schematic TVD 316, that 35.273. And as we worked through the design and pre-construction process, we had really targeted value engineering around the envelope, the finishes on the envelope, and then interior finishes as our main strategy to try to take the project from the 36 million down closer to 32 million. And as we've gone through the process, we were able to hit the goals that we had on the envelope, on the interior finishes. When we got to the end of design, or I'd say the fourth quarter of design, the electrical engineer received all the information to really reduce the load, which reduced our switch gear. Our lighting design, we really got aggressive with finding a good strategy that was cost efficient. And then we were fortunate on bid day that we just had some good wins with the trade partners and the numbers that came in. So at the end of the day, we're really excited to report that we came in at that $30.4 million and even exceeded that $32 million goal by $1.5 million. So I'd just pause there if there's any questions or anything at this point.
Well, I have a question. I know that we cut back on some of the finishes, and it was largely because we were concerned about where this total project cost would, and I want to make sure it's very clear. This is construction costs. This isn't total project costs.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So we cut back on some of the finishes, and I wonder now, because the construction costs have come in so much lower than what you had originally anticipated, if it doesn't make more sense now to revisit some of these finishes because they may not last as long. So for example, if a finish costs 20% more, but we get twice the life expectancy out of it, is that not something we should be thinking about today?
So a lot of the finishes that we were discussing were things like on the walls behind where the judge sits, or as you're going in and out of the building. They had a lot of wood millwork that was quite expensive on the walls.
Okay.
So we removed a lot of those types of things, but I can't think of anything that I would say that really would compromise the longevity or the quality of the finishes that we were using.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
With the one exception maybe, which we have the ceramic tile currently included in that 30.4. So there's still additional savings to go to LVT, but that one may be a real question on longevity of the finish.
Okay, all right.
Anything else you'd add to that, John?
Yeah, there's a couple things, and of course, we need to involve the architects in this conversation, and I think it's a good one to have to make sure we're really providing the county with the most durable and high-performance building that, you know, you expect as part of this process. But one that comes to mind is acoustical ceiling tile type. We could really get some good bang for our buck, so to speak, out of the acoustic performance of a tile and the appearance of it as well, at a relatively low cost. So that's something we could certainly study. And then I think Lombard Conrad is on the phone as well, and Corey Trapp is in the room, and it's something that we could come up with a good list and vet that out if that's something that you'd like us to do.
Yeah, I think soundproof is very important, and I know one of the alternates that we're going to talk about, that interior vapor barrier, is that also for sound?
That is for envelope performance, and we do have a detailed slide that we'll get to later
Okay.
to discuss that in more detail.
Can you explain what envelope performance means for us, lay people?
Yeah, so it's the exterior wall system of the building. So it's your wall, it's your window, your roof, basically everything that makes up the outside of the box of the building,
Okay.
and how that performs from an energy and durability and weatherproofing perspective.
Thank you.
So I agree. I like that idea. We'll work with the team to come up with a list of finish nice to haves or add backs that we can get for your review. I think that's a good idea.
So there's a wood tile finish, ceiling tile finish that they took quite a bit of that out. So from a looks standpoint, maybe that is something we can take another look at.
Any other questions related to the final GMP? All right, we'll turn it over to John to talk about our trade partner participation.
Yeah, so really just wanted to highlight what we see as a great win on this project, which is really local, regional trade partner involvement. Huge interest in the project from the local trade partner community. So we received, back in March last year, we were working with about 17 local trade partners to develop that budget that we had presented at that time. Since then, we've received 70 bids in 30 different bid packages. And of those 70 bids, over $6 million has gone to Kootenai County-based companies. And in addition to that, another $15 million has gone to companies based in Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, kind of region, Spokane Valley. And so really our local economic area So just wanted to highlight that only 6% is really going to out-of-state or Western Washington-based companies. And that's by bid value. So any questions on that? Okay. So then we get into kind of a deeper dive on the 4 alternates that remain on our contract. To be clear, these numbers are changes to the previous, so it'd be the 30.4 being our baseline GMP number. These alternate numbers would modify that number by the stated amount that's on there. So the first one being, and I'll preface this by saying we've reviewed this with the design team and our envelope consultant. Facade Support is the company's name, and gone through these. And so this is a recap of some of the pros and cons, just so we can bring you up to speed on those. So the first one is thermally broken Z-girts. Again, a technical term, but what that is, it's the support system for behind the metal panels that's on the stairwells. Conventional system is just a galvanized piece that, galvanized steel piece that goes there. There's options on the market for like a fiberglass or composite base that has less energy transfer through that member. And so we went and got this alternate price. It's an add of $31,000. But in review with the team, given the locations just at the stairwells and not really interior spaces, we're less concerned about, it's called thermal bridging, losing energy through that wall system. And so the payback period on this $31,000 initial cost is, it would take a very, very long time economically for this to make sense. We didn't run an exact calculation, but it'd be in excess of 50 years to pay something like this back, just because so little conditioning, space conditioning is done in those stairwells. So that's alternate number 1. Any questions on that?
Yeah, how much do you think people would be using the stairwell?
So there's the 2 stairwells. There's the one on the north side is the main public stairwell. Anyone that prefers to use a stair in lieu of an elevator would use that frequently. And then on the south side is the staff-only stairwell. So I would think, in terms of the use of the building, if you're just going from one floor to another, it's quicker to take the stair than the elevator. So maybe used occasionally.
In weather like this, how much do you think that it would make a difference?
We've got 12-inch thick concrete walls,
Yeah.
and so that's a lot of thermal mass that would take a very, very long time to change. So I don't think there'd be any perceptible difference in the interior comfort by making this change. It's literally just an energy consumption thing.
I mean, I appreciate your analysis. I'm just curious, just by virtue of them building something like this, if it doesn't meet the cost benefit, why offer it? Like, under what circumstance would it ever make sense?
Great question. So in a building where metal panel is used on a lot more area, part of our value engineering, we actually reduced the area of metal panel substantially. And so we might see where there's metal panel around fully conditioned office space or things like that, you get a little bit more impact on the interior comfort very close to that exterior wall. It might feel just the tiniest bit cooler out there, and you'd be counting on your HVAC system to do more work to offset that. So on that type of building, which just doesn't apply for us, this might have made more sense and had a more significant impact.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Alternate number 2 is to go to PVC roofing in lieu of TPO. TPO is currently in our contract price and traditionally more economical. In this case, we did get an alternate from one of the trade partners that bid the project. That's actually a deduct to go to PVC. So the option on the table is to switch from TPO to PVC, with the benefits being the cost savings, We did verify for our climate, it really is an equivalent performance and warranty that's being offered. Cons or drawbacks being that PVC is slightly more susceptible to UV degradation in extreme sun or brittle in extreme cold. But we don't see, we're talking like Arizona and Alaska kind of extremes. We see some of that, obviously. We're in the middle of a cold snap right now. And so it's slightly more brittle, but really doesn't affect the performance. It's really just something to be aware of. But that's one drawback. And then many of the county facilities currently have TPO roofing, and PVC is just slightly different maintenance and repair procedure. Just wanted to make that known that when this building is serviced, it might have a different process than the other buildings. But for the most part, the roofing system is very, very similar. It's just that final top material that's different. Any questions on that?
I don't think so, but I might have one later.
Okay, fair enough. All right, alternate number 3 is kind of the big one on the table, and this is to switch the core material. So we've got 2 different wall assemblies here. EFIS is the majority of the building, and that's it's like a stucco looking kind of finish, but behind that finish coat is 2 different types of insulation. So conventional is a EPS or expanded polystyrene insulation. I won't get too technical on you, but basically it's a plastic based
It's like
insulation.
the rigid sheets, like a 4x8 sheet that's 4 inches thick that you'd see a lot of times like on a concrete foundation wall or something.
Mm-hmm. The option on the table is to switch to a mineral wool core, which is vapor open. So the advantage being it allows any moisture, should it get trapped in the wall, which it shouldn't, it will move to the outside and it's increased dryability. And that's according to our envelope consultant. Another kind of added side advantage is that core material is completely non-flammable. To be clear, the EPS system, that's the base design, is approved by code in the entirety of this building. We're not having to do this. It's just an added advantage that should that insulation somehow catch fire due to some neighboring building or whatever it is, that core material is non-flammable, whereas the plastic insulation is more flammable. Drawbacks, added costs due to material costs being higher for that insulation, and also the installation labor and the overall time it takes to put that in. It's a longer process with the mineral core. Currently, the supply chain for mineral wool is very volatile. We're hearing about 6 months overall to get that material on site, as opposed to maybe a month or 2 just for the plastic. So it's a hard target to pin down with the current supply chain, but approximately 4 months longer. So that's what's pushing, we're looking at mid-July to start this. So really needing to make a decision if we are going to go with the mineral wool. We really need that decision in the next week or 2. The local installer is a company called Allwall. They were the lowest responsive bidder on the EFIS scope, and they haven't done this mineral wool core here, and so that's a drawback from our perspective of just unfamiliarity. So we can offset that with enhanced quality control and bringing in experts from the manufacturer to make sure this is done properly, and we can execute either option to the highest quality standards. It's just an extra risk that we all need to be aware of. And then their feedback is that with this material being a softer core, it's going to be more challenging to achieve a smooth finish on the outside. So again, that just goes to increased quality control that we as the contractor will need to really have a good plan for.
Questions, Phil? Yes. I have a question. So if we were to go with this option and the delays are worst-case scenario, could that delay the entire project?
I would need to study that. We start to get into winter weather conditions, which could have pretty substantial cost impacts and probably some resequencing on our landscaping scope, which has to follow this. I would need to study if it would have a potential critical path impact. I think if it was 10 months instead of 6 months, that would be a really major deal for us in terms of getting this. But this scope not being completed would not prohibit us from starting the interior work, which is our critical path, because the integrity of the drying in of our envelope so we can start the inside is not dependent on this scope of work. This is just a cladding. So we don't count on this for our weather. So that's kind of a long answer, but I think it's minimal risk to the overall critical path.
Okay. Bruce, questions?
Yes. Outside of the fire resistance advantage, does it enhance the R value for insulation or?
Only slightly. It's a little bit higher R value per inch on the mineral wool versus the EPS. I don't have those numbers, but I could get those for you. It'd be slightly better.
You were kind enough to give us a cost-benefit analysis with those for the exterior. I forget what they were called there. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you perform any kind of an analysis with this so we could see if there's an actual savings over time?
Not an economic one because it's not as much of an energy thing as it is a, hesitate to use the term durability, but it's basically allowing moisture in the wall. If it were to get trapped, it can get out easier with this.
Okay.
There's still a system in place with the base design that allows moisture to get out. It's just slightly different.
Yeah.
So
If this was like in the southeast where it's very humid, I could see an advantage to that. But do you see that really being something important in the inland northwest? Because we tend to be pretty dry.
I know that's what we've been talking about as well. And you know, the product with the wall assembly that is currently in design, we've used like Sacred Heart, the Heart Center that was done in the 90s is that very similar system. And if you go look at it today, it still is performing really well and looks nice. So it's a tried and true product or a system that works really well in our environment. So I struggle to see a good reason to go with the mineral.
Okay.
Well,
And if
Hey, this is Ken. Can you hear me?
yes.
The R value per inch on the EPS board is about 3.6, and it's 4.0 on the mineral wool. So like John said, just slightly better on the mineral wool as far as thermal performance. But I don't know the payback duration of really how that is cost effective or not.
So the thickness of it is 4 inches. So that's an improvement of 1.6 overall, which is fairly negligible.
Okay.
They're both 4 inches thick.
Right.
Okay. David, did you have any thoughts on that?
My thought from a constructability standpoint is the one on the left, which is in your pricing already, is more a rigid product. So installation, as John mentioned, would be more of a challenge if you've got a contractor that's not as familiar with it. So that would be the being even on the exterior look would be more of a challenge.
So if you were one of us, where would you be leaning toward?
I think what Craig said, I was glad to hear he said this, but it would be a challenge to find a reason to go with the mineral wool
So
versus
don't
the rigid
change.
insulation.
And I also would like to ask you, with respect to the roof, your thoughts on that too.
TPO is more of a standard in this region. PVC, I've done buildings with the PVC. The warranty is similar. The product installation is similar. I really don't see an advantage or disadvantage either way. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further questions on alternate number 3? Alternate number 4 was one that, again, going back to when we went out to bid, not knowing where things would come in, we wanted this on the table as potential cost savings, and just to get that competitive bid pricing. So what's on the table is to switch the ceramic tile that is throughout the first, second, and third floor public lobbies and high traffic corridors to luxury vinyl tile, LVT, and just in equal swap, basically same areas. So benefits being cost savings to go to the LVT. It's a less expensive product, and it's thinner. And according to Greg Manley with the maintenance staff, the maintenance on LVT is less than that with ceramic tile as well. Drawbacks of LVT, it does have a shorter anticipated lifespan. It is a thinner material, and the finish coat of it is just basically a wear layer. And so it's more susceptible to scratching and scuffing. So take a day like today, if somebody walked in with, any kind of metal on the bottom of their feet, traction devices from snow, that kind of thing, it could very easily scuff this, or dragging furniture or carts across. You're much more likely to see that with an LVT than you would with ceramic tile. And then Ken with LCA, if you could maybe speak to the aesthetic side of things from your perspective.
Sure. Ken, Lombard Conrad. One of the things when we went through some of these interior finish cost savings options, us on the design side wanted to keep some of the nicer finishes because this is a courthouse, and should courthouses typically look stately and they're places of respect, so the finishes should reflect that perception. We really wanted to keep the ceramic tile in the public lobby because we feel that material kind of presents itself that way as a nicer material versus the vinyl floor option.
Any questions on alternate 4?
Yes, I do. Unless you have a question. You said that the ceramic tile lasts longer. What percentage savings are we looking at with $72,000?
Percentage savings on the overall flooring scope?
Well, you said it saves 72 if we switch the tile out with the is it LTV or LVT?
Yeah, so what's currently included in our price is the ceramic tile. So it would be the $72,000 less to go to the LVT.
So what is that percentage of the overall? And what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, are we paying 20% more to get something that lasts twice as long? Or are we paying 20% more to get something that lasts 22% longer? Or 18%?
Yeah, I would need to get back to you probably on that.
But you understand the question.
I understand what you're saying. I think it part of it comes down to how long is the appearance of the LVT going to be acceptable if it wears much quicker?
Yeah.
Maybe from a performance perspective, it's like, yeah, this is a workable floor, but it's very scratched. It's, you know, it's kind of subjective how quickly you want to replace that. Whereas
I understand.
the tile, I think you won't see the wear nearly as fast.
Yeah. My only concern is just here in North Idaho, you get a lot of people with boots that have stones kind of stuck in the sole. And so that's going to really wear it out quicker.
Yeah.
As opposed to if this was a courthouse that was in the city where people are wearing, you know, leather-soled shoes and things like that.
Yeah. That's a valid
Yeah.
concern.
Okay.
That was our concern too, as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So I guess I would just bring up something too, that none of our courthouses have tile in them, right? So that would just be something to consider as well, just going with the same thing we already have. And we can also talk to Greg about it. He wasn't able to be here at this meeting, but we can talk to him too. I know that he, I think, preferred the LVT just for care. It's easier to replace the tiles than it is to replace the ceramic tiles.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
One minor consideration, I suppose, is that with the ceramic tile, it's going to be a louder walking surface than the LVT would be. And then if you go to the higher acoustic rating on the ceiling tile, then that might offset that, but
Okay.
that's kind of a minor difference.
One thing that comes to mind for me, I'm just throwing this out there, is I think ceramic tile is more slippery when wet and than regular flooring. So, I mean, if with the snow and everything, I think it's more upkeep for our buildings and grounds people to keep our floors dry. At least that's what I think anyway.
Ken, do you know the slip coefficients between the two products?
I'll have to look that up, but they both meet all of the slip resistance requirements. Both products do. I'll have to look up each individual one to know what the actual number difference is, and can get that to you.
Well, with a building full of a high percentage of attorneys, I think the slip factor would be a relevant consideration. So thank you.
Well, that concludes the alternates and our portion of the presentation. Thank you.
All right, so the fire alarm alternate design, we're just gonna add that?
So I believe Corey reached out to the fire marshal, and he requires one fire system per address, so we couldn't add a second system.
Okay, so takes care of that one. Excellent. All right, any other questions on the alternates?
No, thank you.
When would you like to make a decision on them?
I think I could make a decision on the first three right now.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, no, and no.
Okay, I agree with that. You good with that? Okay, and then the, probably want more information on the tile versus the LVT?
I think so. There's just some factors that we just have to kind of think about.
And when would you like, obviously sooner than later, but when would be a good time to get you this answer?
I can have that information before the end of the day for the slip resistance. This is Ken.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure we could make the decision in a week or less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it'd
absolutely.
be fine.
This is
Yeah.
not a big
If we have the
decision.
decision by next week, that would be,
Okay,
That would
so
be
Tuesday
acceptable.
when we sign GMP docs, then we can give you that final thing. Okay,
that would be great.
excellent. All right, so is that it for your presentation?
That's it.
Okay.
One more item on that, just as far as decisions go, because we've discussed this previously, that we've got in that proposed GMP that the contractor has in front of us, they're holding the 3% design contingency that we talked about, which can go away at this point. They've still got a 3% construction contingency. So we should probably discuss that and the pros and cons of that. When we started this meeting, we talked about CCD number 4. That's construction change directive number 4, and that's going to be some changes in the structural design. So things like that would be those percentages. So as we come up with those challenges, that's how those get paid for. So it doesn't increase your GMP, but it does come out of that contingency. So whether or not we keep 6% or 3%.
So right now, the 30.5, that is the 6%? Okay, I'd rather keep it. I'd rather keep the entire contingency at this point.
I'm curious what you recommend, David.
Well, so that brings another question of how we logistically take care of those percentages. So typically in a contract, and this is up to you how you want to handle that, but typically in a contract, they'll come to me and make their case for each one of those changes, and then we keep track of that and subtract from the contingency amount. Or they would do it as a regular change, and that would come to you as a change order request also. So I think the 3% is probably going to be sufficient, but I've been cautioned because I haven't been as deep into these drawings as the contractor has. It's probably prudent to keep that 3% in.
Okay.
So that's two things. We keep it in, and then how do we handle the dispersal of those funds?
I'm fine with keeping it in and having you represent the county on these items and discuss it.
And certainly on these Tuesday meetings, I would be reporting on where we are with that dispersal.
You know.
Does that work?
Yes, we think that would be good. I mean, just to clarify, so there's the 3% contractor contingency that was required in the contract, and then there's this additional 3%, which we're calling design contingency. And it's really just, like Dave said, as we went through the bidding process, we received over 150 bid questions, which is abnormal to us. That was just felt like a large number, and we could see some things that just maybe weren't totally clear, which we see that there is the risk that there could be RFIs, which can result in additional costs. And so to protect the county, that's what we were saying. We feel like there needs to be a 3% contingency somewhere, and I think that makes the most sense that it stays in the construction budget. We talked through all of those with Dave, get his approval, and proceed in that manner. I think that would work well.
Okay. You good with that?
Yep.
Okay, great. And then did we want to talk about the number of offices versus cubicles right now? Or do you want to talk about that at furniture time?
Those two are directly related. So
wait till the furniture discussion?
yeah,
Okay.
that's we've been talking about meeting with having a sit down with the department heads, talking about the utilization of that particular floor, the need for offices versus cubicles, and then weighing that against the value and use of the furniture that we have and likely can get at a reduced rate or a free rate. And those two things are kind of on fighting each other, and we'll have to make decisions on what that floor space will look like before we can really get into the furniture.
Oh, okay. So then probably next week we'll talk about it after your meeting this week?
Yeah, I think that's probably the way that needs to go. I know that the architect has met with staff and they've talked through this, so I'm assuming that's the result, is the drawing floor plan that we currently have. So I don't hold great that we'll be able to reduce that or go a different way, but possibly we can.
Okay,
If we want to use that furniture, that's the way we're going to have to go.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit right now and hear from our our state public defender, Mr. Eric Frederickson, and I think he's got his kind of North Idaho chief with him. If you wanted to come to a front table with a microphone. So I think we're done with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good work. And then you just push that. You can leave that right there, but just push it so the green light's on. Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good morning. My name is Eric Frederickson. I was appointed to the position of State Public Defender on September 25th. I had an opportunity to meet with Commissioner Duncan when she was down in Boise. I do want to introduce Ms. Brady King. Ms. King is going to be located up here in North Idaho. One of the major concerns we've always heard is that this is going to be state of Ada, not state of Idaho. So we will have employees located in North Idaho, Eastern Idaho, and then Central Idaho as well too. Ms. King was a former public defender for Kootenai County and also the Federal Defender's Office. So I want to give you a brief update of where we are and then answer any questions that you may have for us. So we've actually signed a contract for a case management system that will be statewide. It will provide a lot of relief for public defenders throughout the state. We'll have a case management. With the case management system, we will have a brief bank and a motion bank, which will cut down the time and the energy that public defenders will have to take in writing those motions and briefs. It will have a time management system. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with caseloads, and that's always kind of been a big issue. Idaho's going to move away from caseloads, and we're moving towards workloads. So workloads focuses more on how much time attorneys are spending in cases and how much work they can do in the 40-hour week. And to the extent that we're getting above that, then we ratchet those down. But it's no longer focused on the number of cases. I think your chief public defender has told you numerous times that some cases settle very quick and some cases take a lot more energy. And so that's the major focus going forward for the state of Idaho. Budget is February 20th. I told all your public defenders that they have jobs. They absolutely have jobs. All your staff has jobs. Our goal is to recruit and support Kootenai County and to bring more attorneys into the area to support your system. Ms. King, do you have any additional things to add as my North Idaho expert?
Yeah, just look, I haven't worked in the Kootenai office for about 10 years, but some of the attorneys I worked with are still there, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone and letting everyone know that we're here to support them, not stir things up and fire them. So,
And it's always important for me to put my staff on the spot occasionally, so I'm sure she's going to be very happy with that. Any questions that you may have for me? I know there's been a change up with the chief public defender that I believe was
Not
announced.
here. Nope. No, Ann is still our chief public defender, and she will be till the end.
Okay, well, I guess I was told something different by her.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we can talk offline about it, but yeah.
And so that was one of the primary reasons I came up, is to support, and I know I received concerns from some of the attorneys there as well. So.
Okay. And then, the regional process, can you let us know where that is time-wise?
So I would like to start that as soon as possible. I can't hire that position until July 1. My desire is to hire that position on July 1, but that's not a process I control. It's a process I support and help recruit, but I don't control who that individual is. And so as soon as that process gets going, I think it's the clerk that starts that process. I'm trying to recall exactly who
The
does.
clerk of the court or the
The clerk
trial?
of the court, yeah.
Okay. So,
So I will double check on that, but once that process is started, it's my job to appoint 2 attorneys to that commission that makes that hiring decision. And then, like I said, I would love to make that hiring decision on July 1, as well as send out offer letters to all the current employees on that date, so the anxiety doesn't ramp up, as we move up to October 1st.
okay. And then, so it is the magistrate commission, but you're going to appoint more attorneys to the magistrate commission?
So it's magistrate commission without the ADJ.
Right.
And then part of the process is I get to appoint 2 attorneys from this area to sit on that hiring commission.
Okay. Great. I know that some people are concerned about the vesting process and Percy and all that stuff. Is that been worked out? I mean, for instance, if we have somebody who's, 1 month away from being vested as of July 1 or October, how is that going to affect them?
And Commissioner Duncan, I think you and I talked about this quite a bit. This is going to take a legislative change in the state of Idaho. This is something that day 2, so I was started my job on the 25th, the 27th was my birthday, on the 26th. I had a conversation with the experts at admin about what we would need to do to change this. My goal, and this is what I've said all along, is that I don't want individuals to lose their accrued time when they move to the state. And so generally, if you take another job, so I decide I want to quit as a county public defender, move to the state public defender, then I would lose it. This isn't a situation where individuals are quitting their job. This is a situation where everybody is moving over. So I don't want individuals to lose their accrued time, and so that's the change that we're looking at making. I've had numerous conversations with legislators already on this. In fact, I had one yesterday. I actually had 2 yesterday on this very issue. So right before I flew up. So it's on our radar. I don't have an answer because I don't have control over it, but I can tell you where I'm pushing on it. And any support that you would give along those lines, we greatly appreciate.
Okay. And then, how's your relationship with county prosecutors?
So far, the ones that I haven't tried cases against are pretty good. It might be a little bit different from the ones that I have. So I've already met with Jan Bennett. I've met with Grant Lobes. I'm happy to meet with any prosecutor that wants to discuss it, realizing that it certainly can be a working relationship, but there are times it's adversarial, and that's the nature of it. And so, but I'm happy to work with them at any point in time.
Okay. I think I guess Capital Crimes Defense Fund, I think you and I talked about a little bit. Do we know where the latest is on that?
So that goes away as of October 1.
Right.
And so that's kind of the insurance fund, and you guys probably know more than anybody else I talk to. But that'll go away October 1. So what happens with that money is really is a question right now.
Okay.
I do have certain concerns about how that money could be used, considering it was previously used for defense services. But if you have any questions along those lines, I'm happy to answer those.
Okay. Do you have any questions for?
Yeah, just a couple. I take it you're switching software systems to manage going from caseload to workload?
We are. So that's the case management system will handle that.
Yeah.
The important part of the case management system that I think all the chief PDs and all the contract attorneys are going to love is that they no longer have to submit reports to us. We can just run those reports. And so that'll save hours and hours.
And I understand. It's just usually when you have these kind of transitions, and you're not just doing a transition from the counties to the state, but you're also changing systems at the same time. I hope that at least you have some good contingencies in place. And the fact that I know with our own public defender's office, we're so understaffed that I'm kind of hoping that at least your office has money to help, recruit attorneys for the department. and keep the ones that you have. And I'm not really saying that for any other reason than just so that you're aware, because there's a lot of logistics with this. And our fear is, of course, that people will lose the ability to get proper representation through staffing or systems that just, they don't transition as smoothly.
So we will start in, I think it's 35 days is when the transition will start to the new system. So we'll start adopting the new system and kind of working it in with the current system. So once we get to October 1, then everybody should be familiar with the new system. They've been fully trained on it.
That's good.
We'll have support staff, and so that's why we started the process so early. It may be a little bit awkward time in that transition period, but come October 1, everyone should be fully ready to go there. That's October 1's the date that gives me nightmares, quite frankly, and I'm sure you understand why. But that's also a date we're going to work with the courts, so the courts know that during that week period of time, if things happen, it's because we're making such a big transition. And I don't think we've ever, as a state of Idaho, created such a large state agency and made this sort of transition in such a short period of time. But I can tell you, I think we are well ahead of where we thought we would be right now. And so the goal is to kind of keep that momentum going forward. So
I think the three biggest offices, though, use the same case management system already.
they do. So I think Kootenai County uses it. So it's legal server, who Kootenai County uses. I think Bannock County uses it. I don't think Ada does.
Okay.
But there's one other, I think.
Canyon? Maybe?
Bonner uses it as well. And so there are a number that already use it. We're going to adapt this case management system to what we need so we can take pressure off of the attorneys and the staff to do their job. So it'll run much more efficiently than, because I think some of them, like for example, I think Bannock County has a very, very basic case management system through legal server. Ours will be much more, I'm not going to say complex, but easier to use,
Robust.
but allow us to run additional reports that we need.
Okay. Well, good. Anything else you want to?
No, I'm excited to get a chance to meet with you all. Commissioner and I talked about it when she was down in Boise, and I wanted to get up here and again get a chance to meet with your staff and your employees and to assure them that they're safe. In fact, we need to bring more in. So.
Okay. And I'll meet you over at the public defender's office at noon.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, all right. No other questions. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate
Thanks for
it.
coming
Nice
up.
to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Lady. All right. Prosecutor office lobby changes, and I guess that's me, since Greg isn't here. So. They're looking at hiring some new people, and they'll be out of space soon, so they wanted to go ahead with blowing out that lobby area. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was okay with going through that process.
It's their office. They should tell us what they need and go ahead and do it. So,
Yeah. All right, so we'll keep moving in that direction. And back to the private company donating furniture that we were alluding to earlier. There is a company out at the airport who has offered Kootenai County a huge ton of furniture, mostly cubicles, and that's why we're kind of talking about the cubicles earlier as well. So I wanted to know if the board is good with accepting that donation, and if so, staff will get a resolution together and will follow the proper procedure for accepting that.
What's the value of that?
That's a good question.
well, I can tell you a little bit about it, how it works. The value is essentially zero. Most companies, when they have to get rid of it, they're just thankful to have someone disassemble it and take it. But that usually costs somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000 per workstation. And from my understanding, and I believe Commissioner Duncan saw it, it's in excellent condition. So it's probably prudent to always have a few extras of these in a warehouse so that, if staff increases, because the county's getting bigger, we can easily have furniture for those workstations.
So, yeah, that's a bigger discussion, so Sarah can join me on this. Right now, we have Lisa Prosecutor's Office and Community Development who are in need of furniture today. So they've identified some of these pieces that we can get to them today. The issue is going to be storage and actually moving it. So the storage, I don't know if we really want to talk about renting and actually Tom probably can speak to this, renting a storage facility. I still would want to just put the word out countywide just to make sure there's nothing at the airport or nothing at Parks and Waterways or anything like that that would have room. But at this point, you want to share what?
Yeah, so I reached out to Gaston at the airport. He's still looking into whether they have room to store any of it. Because of the color scheme with the furniture, a lot of it is burgundy and may or may not fit into some people's aesthetics. But community development is very much wanting a good portion of it. There's upper cabinets and filing cabinets that they could utilize right now that we wouldn't have to store. They're also hoping to get some of the desks and some of the cubicles. The prosecutor has designated a couple of desks that they're interested in, and there are 27 chairs similar to what the more padded ones we have here that could be replaced, and then those could be dropped down to other areas. I spoke with Nick Snyder, and he has a box trailer that we could utilize. We just needed a truck with a tow hitch, and we can use the sheriff's labor program to go out and get the furniture with Lieutenant Klinkefus. So just looking for direction as to how hard you want to push to get this. We have about 24 working days to get it before the owners of the building need it out. We could definitely at least get the one load of items that everybody has kind of staked their claim to or their hopes to.
Thoughts?
I think it's prudent to get it. I mean, it's free. We just have to, in essence, the expense is the disassembly and the assembly.
And the storage.
Well, yeah, but it's all small in the scheme of things.
So, you good with that, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
great. Got
So-
direction?
move forward.
Yes, thank you. All right, item 6, Kootenai County North roof. And come on up, gentlemen.
I don't want to be that close.
That's fine. All right, so we understand that you discovered some issues with the roof. However, you're going to do some research onto the warranty of the work that was done previously.
I did that research, Commissioner, and it doesn't appear there's going to be anything as far as warranty. The Kootenai Electric superintendent got back to me and he said the age that it was done long enough ago, he does not believe that there's any residual warranty on any of the roofs that's up there.
Tom?
I've got a few quotes that I've been working on. The first one is from Icon. It's about $42,500 to replace the main lobby and the office area. It's about 3,000 square feet. And then some other companies gave me some quotes on patching some of the holes. The problem is there's a lot of tears and a lot of holes in the entire roof. And so my thoughts would be to approach it in sections, because the major issue is in the lobby, excuse me, and the offices in that main area. And those range from depending on the warranty you want to get, 9,000, 1,900, and it's all based on square feet. A couple of contractors that hadn't got back to us with an official quote said to do the entire roof, you're looking at about 200 grand.
Just still not bad compared to the price that we got the building for,
Right.
so. All right, questions on the roof? You want them to go forward with patching it, go forward with quotes on, and these just be gathering quotes on replacing the roof, or what do you think at this point?
Well, it looks like the entire roof is pretty old. It's not a section, it's the whole roof.
Right.
If you were to do it in sections to replace the roof, would that affect operations?
No. Hey, Tom, did that 200,000 include the entire facility?
They never got back to me with an actual
Okay.
quote. They went up on the roof, looked at it, and said, well, it looks about, if you want to do the whole thing, about 200 grand plus. And just to bring up a little point, the area I'm looking at replacing or repairing is PVC, and the contractors recommend TPO, which is what the jail is TPOs.
Which we just agreed to keep TPO on the new building.
Yeah, I would get a quote for the entire roof.
Okay.
We don't want to have to deal with the same issues over and over if that roof is that old.
Okay.
All right, get us a quote, bring it back, and we'll talk funding and all that other stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comment. Okay. Nobody online? Okay, 11:02, meeting adjourned. Thank you.